The news from the PSAC today that the fall sports and the beginning of the winter sports seasons are now canceled through the end of this year, and what that will mean for the various sports teams and their coaches. IUP football coach Paul Tortorella joins us this morning. A conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Coach, good morning.
Morning.
We knew it was coming. All of the rumors were out there, and it seemed headed in that direction yesterday. It actually did happen, the cancellation of those sports teams. Give us your initial reaction.
Well, it was kind of the inevitable, to be honest with you, as things were, progressing. The amount of money that we needed to be spent for testing and just all the safety measures and the resources that are needed are not really conducive at our level. Personally, I think it's going to be hard for a lot of places, even at the Division I level, to have a season. Now, the Power Fives, they have a lot of money involved in it, so I think they may be able to pull it off. But I see a lot of FCS schools, the old 1AA schools, having trouble having a season also. And it kind of gets to the point where if you can't really do it close to the right way, then you probably need to push it to the spring if that's at all possible.
And that's the direction that the conference is pointing right now. All kinds of work having to go on in order to make that happen, and hopefully that can. Talking with Steve Murray last half hour, and he was talking about the fact that you'll still have a chance to get your guys in and working out, doing some sort of work here next month.
Well, the way I'm kind of looking at it, I hope that we can have like a mini spring football in the fall, meaning obviously not probably practicing per se, but conditioning, workouts, strength training, obviously staying on top of the players academically, which I thought our staff did a great job of in the spring. We probably had the best semester we've ever had here since I've been here academically. So that is the reason the kids are here, to get a degree. So we can really help in that phase, and also hopefully have somewhat of a mini spring practice season in the fall.
Have you had the chance to talk with many of the players about the decision yesterday?
Yes, we had a Zoom team meeting last night with the whole team, all the freshmen, incoming freshmen. I believe it was 87 players on there, and all the coaches. So there was over 100 people on the Zoom last night, and kind of explained to them that I wanted to be the one to tell them before the news got out. We had discussed this last week with all the coaches, the head football coaches in the conference, and everyone was in agreement that we felt like we should be the one to tell the players and not let them hear it on social media and different media outlets. So, we spent about a half hour explaining it, talking about it, and the way that I kind of put it was we were kind of just flipping the seasons, hopefully. The spring will be in the fall, and the fall will be in the spring, and we'll still have a chance to play a schedule in the spring, hopefully.
I'm sure that made it a little bit easier, but at the same time, those emotions had to be pretty high.
Well, they are, because you have different factions of players. You have, the incoming freshmen that are coming in, it really is not that big of a deal for them. Actually, they'll probably play, if we do have a spring season, we'll probably play more true freshmen than we would have if we were playing in the fall. The effect is on the older players, the players that may be graduating in December, the players that have never redshirted, that only have 1 year left. They may elect to redshirt if we have a spring season so that they can have a full fall season. So there are a lot of different avenues here for different players. It's not like all 85 guys on your roster fit into the same category. Graduate transfers that would have been coming in the fall may now be coming in the spring. So there's a lot more to it than people realize. And then when you throw potentially recruiting into it, it's a different dynamic.
Yeah, it sure is. One of the things Commissioner Murray was talking about as well was the training staffs and what is involved. And in football especially, the trainers are such an intimate part of the program. They're going to be pretty stretched, aren't they?
Well, if we if we had a fall season, at our level with the amount of resources, and we have great trainers and a great training staff, but the number of people on staff probably isn't very conducive to doing everything that we need to do. The standards that are being asked and recommended by the NCAA. I think the other thing is the NCAA may come out with, saying that you have to do things this way and not recommend it. And if they do that, there'll be a lot of conferences. And like I said, some of those FCS conferences and those former 1AA conferences that won't be able to have a season in the fall either.
Yeah, we're actually seeing a lot of individual schools that are announcing the cancellation of sports programs. We certainly don't want to see that happen. But IUP football is such a strong part of the university's identity that this fall is going to just be so different. As a coach and with your coaching staff, how do you structure what's going to be happening this summer?
Well, I think we've got to obviously look at each player individually and their situation and advise them to what would be best for them. Like I said, dealing with a true freshman is a whole lot different than dealing with a guy that's a senior that's never redshirted. So that's the first thing we have to do. We have to kind of individualize every player and what's the best options. I would say 90% of the team, this isn't that drastic in regards to their eligibility and redshirting, et cetera, but there's about a 10%, one out of every 10 players that this is a little bit different, and some may want a redshirt in the spring and play next fall for their final season if they have a redshirt year available. And try to make the fall as much like we would the spring to get our players ready to come back, in the winter in January or February and get ready to play probably a shortened season. So those are kind of the things. I mean, it's obviously a lot different for a lot of us. I mean, this will be probably the first fall in 43 years that, I won't be involved in football games in the fall. So, the players, they're young, they can adapt, they can adjust. It's going to be a big transition for the coaches, really at any level, to not be on the sidelines and not to be out there practicing in the fall.
And in terms of what an actual season looks like, if you're only playing an eight-game schedule, man, those games are important, aren't they?
Well, yes, they are. It makes them obviously a little more important than normal. But, at the Division II level, and when you talk playoffs, you can't afford to lose games, period, no matter how many you play. And I would think at the an 8-game schedule, you may be able to slip up once if you want to be if they have playoffs and championships. But I look at it as whatever happens. We'll take the spring as it comes. If it's 8 games, we'll play one game at a time and try to win every game like we always do.
Yeah. The sports facilities at IUP, of course, are, as was pointed out last half hour, a little bit more developed than at some of the other facilities. So you might not have the same problems others would have, but there's going to be competition just for getting your team onto a practice facility in order to get the work in that they need. And there's going to have to be a lot of cooperation between sports, probably more so than ever.
Yes, I think that's probably an important factor. We just have to do what's best for the total athletic program. We have to make some changes. We'll make them. I was asked in the summer, are you willing to play in the fall under certain conditions? And I said absolutely. We would do what we'd have to do to play, but if it's not feasible, we'll look at it in the spring and do exactly what we need to do to cooperate with the other sports and get through the spring, and then hopefully next fall we'll be back to normal.
Of course, yesterday's Zoom conference had the school presidents and then a separate meeting with the athletic directors. From program to program, as you talk with other football coaches within the PSAC, is there a lot of interaction between you guys as a group to determine what's working for us, what's not working?
Yeah, we probably met, I would say, since April, twice a month as the head football coaches in the conference, and a lot of respect for each other, and we all are fighting the same battles. It's not like one school has everything and another school doesn't have anything. So we're all on common ground. Mature adults making decisions what's the best for the student athlete. Because what it boils down to, the whole thing, it comes down to the student athletes. They only have a 4 or 5 year window to play in their career. As coaches, like I said, I've been in college coaching for 35 years. So, if 1 year has to be totally different, I'm willing to sacrifice that for the good of the student athlete.
Coach, health and safety for everybody involved in IUP football and IUP athletics. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.
There is Paul Tortorella, the head coach of the IUP Crimson Hawks football team.